Mate, this is going to be such a shitstorm of a week.
Alright, let's get this show on the road.
Oh, I fucking hate the BBC. It's like, we're waiting on Theresa May to speak in about 30 seconds, but yeah, here's the weather.
But here's the weather.
Exactly, that's just so stupid.
Looks like there's no sound. Whoops, wrong thumbnail. I think there's no sound. Ought to turn it off.
Yeah, maybe. This will be an interesting one. It's on a support right now. Very, very small support. Depends what she says, really, like.
Let's change to the FTSE here. Okay, everything normal.
is right on a support, the pound dollar.
Yeah, the big chart is the dollar cable.
Mm. It's validating. I'm really tempted to buy it.
Volatility is picking up already.
Oh shit! I really fucking should have bought it.
There's no sound.
Maybe they're gonna turn the sound on when Shashi gets up to speak, because right now it'll just be a lot of background noise. That's what I'm guessing anyway.
I hope so.
It's like Aussie Yen has bounced back up again, taking a couple of my orders.
Didn't I say this is a buy?
Aussie Yen?
Yeah. I don't know, this was something.
Yeah, you did. No, you did mention that.
Yeah, but it's supposed to drop another 30 or 40. So whatever.
Oh shit, that's loud.
I'm kind of concerned, I have no sound here.
Well, she should have started speaking 5 seconds ago. 5 minutes ago, I mean. But we know what Mrs. May's like. Late as fuck.
I would like to stream the the window from the Reuters software that actually shows the news how they come in. This is really fast. It's unbelievable. Like they say something, and the latency of the live stream is larger than the news. How fast the news coming in?
It's way faster.
Like the live stream is like 10 seconds delayed. I'm gonna
Maybe I should go to London. Maybe I should go to London and watch it live, so I can get the edge over the rest.
Yeah, that should really test that.
Yeah.
But I'm a cheap fuck, so I don't have mobile access, so I would have to bring a computer.
Mm.
Volatility is not too bad on level 2. The poll hasn't changed. 129 still. 129 is still the poll. Oh, this is not far. We went there already.
Yeah.
Three months is 131. 6 months 134. 1 year 138. Maybe we hit them all today.
If it turns out that there is a no confidence vote, the pound is just gonna sink.
Oh, can somebody kill the cameraman? Holy shit, it's like they're the first time or what?
Mm.
I mean, you see the focus, this is very high quality equipment they're using. It's not a mobile phone or something.
Yeah.
This is just an
It's
idiot.
just a low quality cameraman.
Yeah, this is just an idiot. Look, the focus. You can actually see the structure of the wood. This is a very, very high quality equipment. And you can see the scratches in the podium. This is really good. But they just kill the cameraman, like now.
Have you got sound yet?
No?
Oh.
No, she's just posing for the cameraman, for the focus. But they're gonna kick it another 10 times again, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a backup from Reuters, from Bloomberg.
Literally had the exact same thought.
I get an internal server error from YouTube. Okay.
That taught me a lot about the internet. How people want to just be a part of something. And
Okay, Bloomberg doesn't give a fuck.
Reuters TV. Here are your top stories. Theresa May faces a battle after her Brexit minister resigns.
Sources say China's answered Trump's demands on trade.
Meet the developer salvaging Dubai's underwater real estate.
This is Reuters Now. The resignation of Britain's Brexit minister Dominic Raab on Thursday, proof, if any were needed, of the massive battle ahead of Theresa May. She secured ministerial cabinet backing for her Brexit deal on Wednesday night, despite being mauled by both allies and opponents. And now she has to face Parliament. The UK Prime Minister's draft deal with the European Union, secured after more than 2 years of arduous negotiations, could be sunk at any turn. And possibly with it, her premiership.
Mr. Speaker, what we agreed yesterday was not the final deal. It is a draft treaty. It's not. It is a draft treaty that means that we will leave the EU in a smooth and orderly way on the 29th of March 2019, and which sets the framework for a future relationship that delivers in our national interest. It takes back control of our borders, laws and money. It protects jobs.
Will you let me know if she speaks? This is Reuters Now.
Kingdom, and it delivers in ways that many said could simply not be done.
More division, though, is still definitely on the cards. Under the draft deal, Britain will keep close ties with the European Union after it leaves on March 29th. And that's exactly what Brexit supporters don't want. Knives are sharpening already, and Northern Ireland's DUP, which props up May's government, opposes any deal that treats the province differently to the rest of the UK. May got support, at least, from across the Channel.
Finally, let me say this to our British friends. As much as I am sad to see you leave, I will do everything to make this farewell the least painful possible, both for you and for us.
EU leaders are due to meet on November 25th to endorse and formalise the deal. Ample time for the Brexit train to be derailed before it even leaves London.
China has responded to U.S. trade demands, a move that could spark negotiations to end the two sides' trade war. That's what 3 government sources said Wednesday, telling Reuters Beijing has delivered a response in writing. U.S. President Donald Trump has been trying to force China to buckle and hand over concessions on trade between the world's top 2 economies. To do it, so far he's slapped tariffs on $250 billion worth of Chinese imports. Beijing has hit back with its own tariffs too. Trump has repeatedly railed against China on trade.
We have been ripped off by China.
I'm just saying, like,
an evacuation of wealth like no country has ever seen before.
He's focused on intellectual property theft, Chinese entry barriers for U.S. companies, and the American trade deficit with China. The 3 sources say Beijing's response answered those demands. However, they gave no further details, so it's unclear if that included concessions that would satisfy Trump's demands for change. It comes weeks ahead of the G20 summit in Argentina, where Trump is expected to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. trade is more than likely to top the agenda. If U.S. demands on trade aren't met, Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on everything China exports to the United States.
After the fiercest fighting in years, a ceasefire brought relative calm to the Israeli-Gaza border Wednesday. But the decision to hold fire instead shattered the peace of Israel's coalition government. Israel's defense minister Avigdor Lieberman resigned in protest. He says the truce is a capitulation to terror and that he couldn't look Israelis who live on the border in the eye. This is how those residents felt. Protests broke out in Sderot, the Israeli city worst hit by rocket fire from Gaza. Images the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would rather not see a year before the country's next election. In Gaza, they celebrated. Hamas is calling it a victory. Since Monday, Israeli airstrikes had killed 7 Palestinians and destroyed several buildings used by Hamas. In Israel, dozens were wounded in rocket attacks from Gaza. The flare-up evokes memories of the last major conflict in 2014. The enemies are making it clear that the pause is an armed standoff rather than a long-term accommodation. This fighting erupted after a botched Israeli commando mission in Gaza on Sunday turned into a gunfight and airstrikes. We know Lieberman wants harsher...
Is she always late?
If the calm doesn't hold,
yeah.
Netanyahu will face pressure to take a tougher stance.
The Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has already killed more than 200 people, could stretch well into next year. That's the latest warning from a senior World Health Organization official.
Certainly we're planning on at least another 6 months before we could declare this outbreak over.
The northeastern North Kivu province has seen 333 confirmed and probable cases of the deadly virus, making it the worst outbreak in Congo's history. Its location is said to be the most difficult the WHO has ever encountered. But more worrying is the fact that the Ebola virus is being spread by transmission in actual health centres in the main town of Beni.
So there are several hundred what they call tradi-modern or traditional modern health facilities in Beni. They have never been mapped, they're not regulated by the Ministry of Health. They're private facilities that are really good.
It's just news.
And those facilities are, we believe, one of the major drivers of the ongoing transmission.
Studies of the outbreak in October revealed many of the victims were children being treated for malaria in the tradi modern health centres.
One week into California's deadliest wildfire, and this is what's left of some towns. Burned out cars and houses reduced to rubble. Officials say the northern Camp Fire is still only 35% contained. Photographer Terry Sylvester has been following search and rescue teams in the town of Paradise, once home to nearly 30,000 people.
The town of Paradise is desolate. Occasionally I saw dogs jump into burned out cars to search for people who may have been trapped as they were trying to escape from town. These dogs normally work calmly, but that wasn't the case today. Today they seemed agitated. Their handlers told me that these dogs seem overwhelmed. Normally when they respond to a fire, it would be a fire in a single house. Now the dogs' noses are dealing with sort of sensory overload. They have so many scents, not just from potential human remains, but from everything else that has burned in all of these homes that have burned in Paradise. Paradise is also monochromatic. I was talking with a firefighter who was commenting that after wildfires, it seems like the only colors he sees are black and gray and shades of red. The air is acrid. The air is also thick with smoke right now in Chico and the Central Valley towns below Paradise. I think visibility might be about 1/3 of a mile, but in Paradise itself, it might be even less than that.
There's still no official word on the cause of the blaze.
Ambassadors for 15 Western nations have drafted a letter to a senior Chinese official in the western province of Xinjiang, seeking an explanation of alleged rights abuses against ethnic Uyghurs. Beijing has been facing an international outcry over mass detentions and strict surveillance of the mostly Muslim Uyghur population of Xinjiang. The group of ambassadors led by Canada are seeking a meeting with the top Chinese Communist Party official in the heavily Muslim province. Reuters' Ben Blanchard in Beijing has seen a copy of the letter.
The letter is quite brief. It says simply that the ambassadors who've attached their name to the letter, they are very concerned about the report by the UN human rights body about the situation in Xinjiang, and it says that they seek an audience with Chen Quanguo, who's the Communist Party boss in Xinjiang, China's top official there.
In August, a UN human rights panel said it had received reports of 1 million or more Uyghurs being held in what resembled a massive secret internment camp in Xinjiang. It wasn't clear if the letter had been sent to Chinese authorities yet, but one diplomatic source tells Reuters efforts were underway to have more countries sign on. That's despite unease in many Western capitals about pushing Beijing too hard on human rights amid concerns over angering China.
China has been very, very angry and upset at what it sees as foreign interference from the criticism that mostly Western countries have made towards China's policies. So far, the Chinese government has actually been, in the last couple of weeks, really been mounting quite a strong propaganda offensive, putting their side of the story as to what's going on in Xinjiang.
China says it is not enforcing arbitrary detention or political re-education in Xinjiang, claiming some citizens guilty of minor offences were being sent to vocational centres for employment opportunities. On Wednesday, the Foreign Ministry said it would be, quote, problematic if the ambassadors want to go to Xinjiang and pressure the local government, and warned them not to interfere in internal affairs.
Sonny Bill Williams, Israel Folau and Courtney Laws. What do all of these rugby superstars have in common? They all sport serious tattoos. And that's going to be a problem when they head to Japan for the Rugby World Cup next year. Some got a preview during a recent visit.
First day we were here, we went to a gym and we all had to cover up, so there was a few long sleeve tights and calf sleeves going around.
Players are being advised to cover up their age.
What is that noise?
In Japan, tattoos have long been associated with the Yakuza, the country's organised crime syndicates.
Getting tattoos for Yakuza is just like a baptism for Christians. It shows their determination to prove that they're not going back to the society where they used to be.
Ex-Yakuza Tetsuya Shindo is now a Christian pastor. He says even after leaving that life behind, his tattoos have meant that people here still associate him with crime. Advocates, though, are hoping the arrival of inked athletes will spark a debate.
I think it's a good thing. Not everyone with a tattoo is necessarily Yakuza, and I think the Japanese people need to learn that.
Even with long sleeves, inked athletes won't be allowed into some public spaces, like gyms and Japan's traditional bathhouses. Most of them have complete bans on any kind of body inkings.
France has an offer for anyone who wants to raise money issuing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Play ball and we'll certify you as a respectable business. The country's market regulator, this is it, wants coin issuers to pay tax on their profits and to be transparent about the identity of investors. For some Bitcoin fans, that sounds like a deal with the devil.
The idea of certification from the government might be in contradiction with the whole idea of cryptocurrency.
For Bitcoin's founders, anonymity was part of the point. But that's led to charges that cryptocurrencies are a boon for criminals. Reuters correspondent Inti Landauro in Paris says some crypto players are willing to compromise, though.
Right now, the people who are investing in cryptocurrencies are more specialized, are people who are really
from the EU after 40 years. And building from the ground up a new and enduring relationship for the good of our children and grandchildren is a matter of the highest consequence. It touches almost every area of our national life, our whole economy and virtually every job.
Here we go.
The livelihoods of our fellow citizens, our integrity as a United Kingdom of 4 nations, our safety and security, all of these are at stake. My approach throughout has been to put the national interest first, not a partisan interest, and certainly not my own political interest. I do not judge harshly those of my colleagues who seek to do the same, but who reach a different conclusion. They must do what they believe to be right, just as I do. I'm sorry that they've chosen to leave the government, and I thank them for their service. But I believe with every fibre of my being that the course I have set out is the right one for our country and all our people. From the very beginning, I have known what I wanted to deliver for the British people, to honour their vote in the referendum. Full control of our borders by bringing an end to the free movement of people, once and for all. Full control of our money, so we decide ourselves how to spend
So they're gonna get out.
like our NHS. Full control of our laws by ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in the United Kingdom, getting us out of the common agricultural policy and common fisheries policy for good. That is exactly what this agreement will deliver. Free movement ended. Vast annual payments stopped. The jurisdiction of the ECJ over. Out of the CAP, out of the CFP. This is a Brexit that delivers on the priorities of the British people. In achieving these objectives, I'm also determined to protect the things that are important to us. Protect the hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs that put food on the tables of working families right across the UK. Those jobs rely on cross-border trade in goods, with parts flowing easily in and out of the UK, allowing for integrated supply chains. This agreement protects that. Protect the close security cooperation that helps keep us safe. This agreement does that. Protect the integrity of the United Kingdom and the peaceful settlement in Northern Ireland by leaving the EU as one United Kingdom and having no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. This agreement does that as well. Yes, difficult and sometimes uncomfortable decisions have had to be made. I understand fully that there are some who are unhappy with those compromises, but this deal delivers what people voted for, and it is in the national interest. And we can only secure it if we unite behind the agreement reached in Cabinet yesterday. If we do not move forward with that agreement, nobody can know for sure the consequences that will follow.
FTSE doesn't move, and the British pound as well.
Very undecided, very undecided.
Just want us to get on with it. They are looking to the Conservative Party to deliver. To deliver a Brexit that works for the whole UK, a strong economy that keeps jobs safe and wages rising, and first-class public services we can rely on. NHS there for all of us, great schools for every child, and the homes that families need. That is what the people we serve expect, and that is what we owe it to them to deliver. Goodness me, you normally put your hand straight up after the... Laura.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Laura Kunsberg, BBC News. It's very clear you want to stick to your plan. Isn't it the case, though, that others are seeking
Could you
to
turn the
take
stream
that
up?
decision
The
out of your hands? And Prime Minister,
Reuters
is it not the
volume
case
up.
now that you want
Yeah, I can't. I don't know why this is so...
When we bring the deal back, what is going to happen now is that there will be negotiations, particularly focusing on the future framework and filling their details of that out, and an EU Council meeting, and that will then be brought back to the House of Commons and to a vote in the House of Commons. My job of getting the best deal for Britain. I'm going to do my job of getting a deal that is in the national interest. When the vote comes before the House of Commons, MPs will be doing their job. They will need to look at that a deal. They will need to consider the vote of the British people to leave the European Union and our duty to deliver on that vote. And of course, they will be held to account by their constituents for the decisions that they take. Tom.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Tom Newton-Dunn for The Sun. Prime Minister, if there was a confidence vote held in your leadership of the Conservative Party, do you think it's in the national interest for you to fight it? And if you win by only one vote, will you carry on as Prime Minister?
Leadership is about taking the right decisions, not the easy ones. As Prime Minister, my job is to bring back a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does that by ending free movement, all the things I raised in my statement, ending free movement, ensuring we're not sending vast annual sums to the EU any longer, ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, but also protects jobs and protects people's livelihoods, protects our security, protects the Union of the United Kingdom. I believe that this is a deal which does deliver that, which is in the national interest. And am I going to see this through? Yes. Next question. Yes? Yes. Sorry. Do you want a microphone?
Prime Minister Simon Viger from 5 News. Surely now even you have to admit this is not strong and stable.
What I think people will see is that what I and the government have done is been sticking to the job of ensuring that we're delivering for the British people. That's what we're doing. We're delivering in the national interest. And look, you know, MPs have been debating the best way to deliver Brexit ever since the referendum took place in 2016. And there's been much criticism throughout that time of the government's approach. People have been ready to point out what they don't like. But one simple fact remains, and that is that nobody has produced any alternative proposal which both delivers on the referendum and also ensures that there's no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. And I understand some people feel uncomfortable about the details in the backstop, particularly in the withdrawal agreement, and I share some of those concerns. But there's another inescapable fact. There is no deal which can be agreed with the European Union that does not involve a backstop to act as an insurance policy against a return to the borders of the past in Northern Ireland. All the other approaches, Norway, Canada Plus, etc., they would all require a backstop. And the alternative of repudiating that backstop would not only mean reneging on a promise to the people of Northern Ireland, but it would also collapse the negotiation and end hopes of securing a deal. So what has the government been doing? We have been absolutely clear in focusing on delivering what is in the best interests of the British people. Faisal.
Faisal Islam, Sky News. Prime Minister, are you not in denial about the chances of getting this deal through Parliament? And for the critics in your own party that have been sending in letters very publicly, is it time for them to put up or shut up?
What I have, as I think you may have heard me say in the House of Commons earlier today, as I've just reiterated here, I'm going to do my job of bringing back the best deal for the United Kingdom. That will then be put before the House of Commons. It will be put before members of Parliament in a meaningful vote. Their job will be to look at that deal. Their job will be to consider the interests of their constituents, and their job will be to consider how we can deliver on the vote of the British people to leave the European Union. And I think most people watching this or listening to this will recognise that this is not an easy thing to do. This is a complex negotiation. But I think what most people want to know is that what we will deliver will be in their interests. It will protect jobs, it will protect security, it will ensure a great future for this country. Yes.
Rob Hutton from Bloomberg. Isn't it time to say what you clearly think, which is that the Brexit campaign offered something that was not on the menu? It offered very, very easy trade negotiations. It offered there was going to be no problem at all with the Irish border. It was all going to be fantastically straightforward. The European Union was going to give us everything we wanted because of BMW and Prosecco and things like that. Isn't it time to say that I'm afraid some of the things that you were promised, they were never there?
No, look, I think most people in this country recognise that after 40 years of membership of the European Union, delivering Brexit, dealing with how we're going to withdraw from the EU and what our future relationship is not an easy negotiation. These are complex issues. I think what most members of the public want, those actually who voted for leave and those many of those who voted for Remain as well, is for the government to get on with it. That's exactly what we're doing. And for the government to deliver a deal that is in the national interest, that is going to protect their jobs, and that is going to ensure that we have a great future for this country, and that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, over.
Julia McFarlane, ABC News. Prime Minister, what would you say to Britain's friends and allies abroad who are watching all this happening and witnessing what's increasingly looking like a government in chaos?
I think what people in Brussels will be seeing is that the government has agreed the withdrawal agreement. They've recognised, and the draft political outline political declaration. They have recognised that by the fact that President Juncker has written to the EU Council, to President Tusk, to say that decisive progress has been made in the negotiations, and on that basis, a council has been called for the 25th of November. And I think they see a government that is intent on working with them to ensure that we deliver a good deal for the British people. But as I've always said, I think a good deal for the UK is a good deal for the EU as well. Robert.
Prime Minister, you've said that your deal is in the national interest, but your party is deeply divided on it, perhaps more divided than any of us have ever seen. Are you prepared to risk the breakup of your party to deliver the deal you believe in?
As I've just said, Robert, in answer to an earlier question, MPs have been debating how best to deliver on the result of the referendum ever since the result of the referendum took place. I think what the British people want us to do, and I believe what MPs will do when it comes to the vote in the House of Commons, is focus on the fact that people have voted to leave and focus on how we do that in a way that is good for the United Kingdom. I'm committed as Prime Minister to bringing the best deal back for the United Kingdom. That's what I'm going to be doing, and I expect when we come that members of Parliament across my party will look at that deal, will recognise the importance of delivering on the vote of the British people, and recognise the importance of doing that in a way that does protect people's jobs, that does protect our security, and does protect our United Kingdom. George?
Gordon Rayner from The Telegraph.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Prime Minister...
You got the G right at
least. There are reports tonight that Michael Gove has been asked to become the new Brexit Secretary, but that he will only take that job on condition that he is allowed to go back to Brussels and try for more concessions. Will you allow whoever becomes the new Brexit Secretary to do that, to try and get more concessions? And there have been no announcements yet on any appointments to replace people who've resigned. Are you struggling to find people who want to fill those roles?
Now, I've had actually rather a busy day, as you might have seen, 3 hours in the House of Commons. Seriously, look, Michael has been doing an excellent job at DEFRA, and particularly in his defence of the fishing industry. And as you'll see, there's some very important elements of the outline political declaration which recognise that the United Kingdom will be an independent coastal state in the future. Fishing is an issue that matters to people, and Michael's been doing an excellent job in terms of ensuring that we're delivering on that commitment that we have to come out of the common fisheries policy. I haven't appointed a new DEXU secretary yet, and I will of course be making appointments to the government in due course. Jason?
Thank you. Jason Groves from the Daily Mail. Just to follow up Tom's question, we've seen several of your colleagues today declare that they no longer have confidence in your leadership. What will you do if there's a vote of no confidence in the coming days?
Well, as I said earlier, look, leadership is about making the right decisions, not taking the easy decisions. As Prime Minister, my job is to get the best deal for Britain and to bring that deal back to the House of Commons, and that's exactly what I am focused on doing. I think members of the public want the government to get on with delivering on Brexit for them. And as I said earlier, am I going to see this through? Yes. Who shall we have here in front?
Prime Minister, thank you very much. Nick Robertson from CNN. You've talked about leadership as being the position of taking hard decisions, the right decisions, that some of the choices have not been easy. Would you share with the country now some of those decisions that you personally have found have been the hard, tough, not easy decisions to take?
Well, in relation to the deal that we're looking at, there's, as I've said before, I recognise there are concerns about the backstop. That is an issue, and I share many of those concerns. And the decision to go forward and on the basis that we have was not an easy one. There was a very good and impassioned debate that took place in the Cabinet yesterday over these issues. But Overall, looking at the national interest, we agreed as a cabinet and as a government that the deal that we have is the right one to proceed with, to go to the next stage of the negotiations, and obviously those negotiations will lead up to the EU Council on the 25th of November. Mesa?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mesa Hall from the Daily Express. Ever since you've been in this job, you've always been adamant that the country will leave the EU in March next year. Over the last couple of days, you've talked about the risk of no Brexit. Do you think, given the forces that are lined up in opposition to your deal, that that is now becoming a definite threat?
Well, there were a number of members of Parliament who stood up in the House of Commons today and said that their view was that staying within the European Union was the right thing to do. I disagree. We gave the vote to the British people. Parliament overwhelmingly gave that vote to the British people to decide whether or not to stay in the European Union. The people voted to leave, and I believe it is our duty as a government, I believe it's our duty as members of Parliament to deliver on that vote of the British people. And we will be leaving on the 29th of March 2019. On the edge there, sorry, yes,
Thank you, Prime Minister. Matthew Thompson from LBC. I'm just wondering to what extent this crisis is to some extent of your own making, in the sense that it's a failure of expectation management and not bringing people like the DUP and hardliners within your own party along with you. Obviously, they weren't going to like what was in this deal. Should you not have brought them on board a little bit more quickly?
We have been working on this deal and negotiating on this deal. There have been various staging posts where we've made clear to people what the approach that we're taking in relation to these issues. That happened in December at the joint report, obviously. Then there was further information that we put forward in the spring, and then in July our approach was clearly set out for people. We have, of course, been discussing with colleagues and with people in the House of Commons, as we have been discussing with business and others as we progress through in putting this deal together. What has been the focus, as I said earlier, is making sure that the deal that we deliver is a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does so in a way which is in the best national interest, which ensures that we protect people's jobs and livelihood and security, but also ensures that we are able to move forward outside the European Union as a global Britain, and, for example, to ensure that we can negotiate trade deals around the rest of the world. I believe that's what's in the interests of people here in this country, and that's what we will deliver. I'll take a couple more questions. Now, George.
Sorry, Paul Wall, HuffPost.
Oh, I've done it again.
Lots of reporters...
Anybody who thinks I've got George Parker on my mind is, you know...
It's lots of reporters with no hair, Prime Minister. I think that's it. Prime Minister, if the House of Commons voted by a majority for another referendum, for a people's vote, would you see that as a resignation matter, or would you see that as you having to implement the will of Parliament as Prime Minister?
Well, look, I have taken a very clear view about the question of a second referendum. I've made that view clear to members of Parliament, and I think actually across the House of Commons, most members of Parliament recognise that they gave a vote to the British people, and the British people voted, and it's up to us to deliver on that vote and not have a second referendum. As far as I'm concerned, there will not be a second referendum. We asked people their view. They said we should leave the European Union, and we will leave the European Union, and we will leave on the 29th of March 2019. Look, if you look across the House of Commons, yes, there have been some voices for a second referendum. But I believe, actually, when people come to look at the deal that we bring back from the European Council, the final package that we bring back from the European Council, they will look at delivering on the vote of the British people and at doing so in a way that protects the interests of their constituents. And I believe that is the question that members of Parliament will be asking themselves at that point, not about a second referendum. I'll take, as I said, just a couple more. Just in there.
Hi, I'm Hannah Al-Othman from BuzzFeed News. My question is, given the difficulty you're likely to have getting this deal through Parliament, do you regret calling a general election last year?
No, I don't regret calling a general election last year. As I say, you know, when it comes to the vote in Parliament, there will be a decision for MPs to take. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to bring the best deal back for the British people, and MPs will then do their job and, of course, be held to account by their constituents for it. So the last question I'll take here.
Thank you. Joe Waltz, The Independent. Prime Minister, you're a cricket fan. From the outside, it looks like, at the moment, you're a long, long way off getting the number of runs that you need, but your batsmen are dropping like flies. Is there any number of wickets that will fall in your cabinet before you resign as captain?
Well, can I just say that you might recall from previous comments I've made about cricket that one of my cricket heroes was always Geoffrey Boycott. And what did you know about Geoffrey Boycott? Geoffrey Boycott stuck to it, and he got the runs in the end. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there we go.
We priced in already.
It's right on trend line now, the pound is.
She's just going to grind it out. Okay. Cricket analogy at the end. All right, brilliant. Thanks so much. All right, speak to you later, mate. The cricket analogy.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark, it was the Theresa May we anticipated, the very determined one. She opened with that very brief statement, again making the case for the deal that she's brought home, and actually caught the journalists rather off guard, because I think some of them were expecting her to go further. But what is fascinating about her is that she is deliberately taking the emotion out of this. There's so much heat here at Westminster, but she opened up by saying she didn't blame people like Dominic Raab and others who'd resigned from the cabinet. She thought they were sincere, but they were wrong. And you know, when she was asked that question about the potential vote of confidence,
the spread is still terrible.
She didn't answer it absolutely correctly. She just said, "Look, I see my job as being to see this through, to taking the deal to a vote, and hoping to win that." And,
there we go. It's back to
you know, it has to be said, a lot of people have fallen by the wayside, resigned, attacked, criticised her, and she is still standing around those 2 points that we stressed at the very beginning, that she feels she has a duty and a determination to deliver on the Brexit vote. She said a number of times, we will be leaving the European Union on the 29th of March next year, but also to do it, as she argued and as she sees it, in the least damaging and most positive way for the country in terms of the economy and jobs.
Looks like pound dollar's going to start falling again. This is where I make the money.
Well, I'm a little bit puzzled, to be honest, because we had that very sort of bold performance, not necessarily the most impressive performance by Jacob Rees-Mogg, saying that he'd sent in his letter. We also had the former minister, Steve Baker, saying they'd sent in a letter. The atmosphere seemed very much targeted against Mrs May for the first time. You remember Rees-Mogg asked the Prime Minister directly in the statement why he shouldn't ask for a vote of confidence.
Rejection.
And certainly there's been a lot of action in Westminster, assuming that the European Research Group, which claims to be 80 to 100 strong, certainly had enough Tory MPs in it to trigger this vote. Now, so far, that hasn't happened. On the record, we've seen about 16 or 17 MPs say they've sent in letters, so they seem to be a long way short of it. And it may be, as you say, that they're going to begin to back off and turn around and say, oh, well, in spite of what we said, it's not about individuals, it's about trying to organise to defeat this bill containing the withdrawal deal. But what the Prime Minister just said and what she said in the Commons earlier on made it very clear that she is going to challenge them and hold their feet to the fire, if you like, by pressing ahead with this deal and bringing it before the Commons. So that's the moment where they're going to have to decide if they can't get enough people to vote against her, as I say, in a vote of confidence, or call a vote of confidence. The moment where they'll have to knife her will be in the division lobbies in the meaningful vote on this proposal for withdrawing from the EU.
Today began with a raft of resignations, including the Brexit Secretary himself, Dominic Raab, followed shortly by...
I think, you know, we've seen a remarkable side of this Prime Minister. I mean, we've got to know her. People call her the Maybot. I mean, as I say, she doesn't smile a lot. She doesn't try to make friends or to challenge her enemies, but she just presses on. And that analogy with Geoffrey Boycott as doing it slowly and dourly but brilliantly is certainly one I think she will be pleased with today, and maybe his hopes of a knighthood have gone up
This
again.
morning the Prime Minister took question after question as she tried to defend her draft deal in a marathon 3-hour session amid criticism from all sides.
Well, my guess is that if there are enough signatures for
a
vote of confidence, I think the evidence is that she would probably win that, and that would strengthen her. But she's clearly saying, look, that's a distraction. The focus is getting through this withdrawal, and that requires a vote in Parliament supporting me, and that will clearly be the moment of maximum danger, because at the moment, if you look at the parliamentary arithmetic, it's difficult to see how the votes are there, but this is a woman who's steamrolled forward for a number of months now with her Brexit plans, and obviously she's going to keep her foot on the pedal of that steamroller.
Fight on for her draft Brexit agreement, insisting it delivers what people voted for and is in the national interest. Today began with a raft of resignations of 4 ministers in total, 2 cabinet ministers, among them the Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab, followed shortly after by the Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVeigh. Theresa May then spent 3 hours on her feet in the Commons defending her draft Brexit agreement with the EU amid criticism from MPs.
Speaking in the past about
And then more
leadership.
drama outside as the leading Eurosceptic MP Jacob Rees-Mogg announced he was submitting a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership, saying her Brexit deal had turned out to be worse than anticipated. Our political editor Laura Kunsberg now reports on today's terminal Wednesday. Can all you go a little faster just because I'm literally getting the line right at the bottom, but that's great, thank you.
Alright, I'm outie.
Yeah,
I think you might have to say we'll do a substantial. There's no one finding out the door just yet, so probably good.
Do we know? I don't even know.
Right.
Yes.
Right, that's ramping up on this button. Push him.
Yeah, so we can have a chat now.
Is it on the lead queue? No.
Yeah.
For the headline, you mean right at the top?
Nothing revelatory.
No, I'm thinking just a little nudge off right at the top.
Okay.
And then a nudge again in the lead queue. Yeah.
Well done, Vicky.
So a little nudge right at the top. Yeah. And then a little nudge.
When Sophie starts speaking?
Yeah. So, Stuart, when Sophie starts speaking?
What I'm doing after I've done Laura.
Definitely landing on this button. Can you high up? No, you're on the ladder. Are you able to hear clean
So that's just Chris Morris. Then what's off the back? Then I've got Andy.
Yeah, okay, so
plan,
you cue Rafe then, Stuart, yeah? Okay, alright, cheers.
And is that a package or a live?
I'm just reloading the ball, but I think it's landing this button.
Then Sarah Smith live?
Live.
Okay. Okay, and the cashier is in the reaction.
Alright, that's it.
There. And then what happens?
Let's call it a day.
So Ben is doing right. Ben is and then we do down here. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the lead.
All right.
Sorry, Jamie. You're right.